Welcome to the Thoroughly Wrong Project with Lalo and Bob. We appreciate you spending some time with us today. Let's jump right into that weekly dose of things you can disagree with. Take it away, guys.
All right. Welcome to a late version of the Thoroughly Wrong Project. We haven't been on in a while, man, but it hasn't been anybody's fault except maybe yours. How you doing,
Yeah,
man?
pretty good, pretty good. Yeah, I've just been there's just been stuff that pops up either last minute or um it's pre-planned, but then I just forget about it.
Yeah.
Like I forget that it conflicts with this
Yeah.
until the very last second.
Have we done anything since Chili Peppers?
Um,
I don't think so.
no, I think that was yeah. So the week before was the last one. So that was what July 31st.
Yeah, something like that. So it's
So
been a
like a whole
while.
last month. Yeah.
It's been a while, and a lot has happened. And I wasn't thrilled with SoFi Stadium. Not for a
With
concert.
its design or its
No, it's beautiful.
acoustics.
It's aesthetically perfect, man. It looks, that crazy architecture and everything, but the sound quality inside that place for a rock and roll show, not good.
I think it probably also depends where you are in the stadium.
Yeah, maybe. I was in
Like
the nosebleeds.
because I went with my dad, and he's he has experience, like a lot of experience, with sound engineering and he has sound equipment that he'll rent out to groups and bands here in town and stuff.
Yeah,
So he's always not hypercritical, but he's always he'll always pay attention to whenever there's an audio setup anywhere.
of course. He's an expert. So there you
Yeah.
go.
So when we were there and the opening acts were playing and stuff, he would also say that it sounds off, you
Hmm.
know.
Well,
So
I could recognize the songs because I've heard them, 1,000 times, but like in between songs when they were talking,
oh
not
yeah,
not a
I couldn't
single
really.
fucking word. Didn't hear any of it. So, I mean, I liked it. The concert. I got one next week at the Will Turn in Koreatown.
Hmm.
So I'm going to see the Pretty Reckless next weekend.
Okay.
But I'm staying Friday, Saturday, and coming home Sunday. But I'm going to try to see if I can hook up to the Wi-Fi in the hotel and record an episode from the Will Turn.
Okay.
So
Yeah, my next concert's in I think 2 weeks.
yeah.
Oh no, it is next week. Oh shit. Yeah, next week on the 7th.
Oh, okay. Who is it?
I'm gonna go see Kendrick Lamar in
Oh, okay.
Anaheim.
Oh, that's your boy, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then I think I might see him again on the 11th in Ontario.
I have the
So,
second is no, I'm sorry. Next weekend I'm seeing Jaws on the big screen on the what they call it, the giant screen. And then I think it's the 9th is the Pretty Reckless. The 24th is Rammstein, and I think I'm done for a while. I'll be done till March, where we're going to go see Villavallo. So there used to be you hear the band Him.
yeah.
Yeah, that's my wife's thing. But yeah, it's okay music. if you're if you're 15 and really sad and have black fingernails, it's great music. It really is.
It's a very niche group.
Well, so is the Pretty Reckless. So I can't say anything about it. Yeah, so I've been busy, dude, since I quit the county. I went to work for, I'm not going to name them because I'm going to deride them a little bit, but I went to work for a indoor grow here in Kern County.
Indoor grow.
Yeah, a marijuana
What is
farm.
that? Oh, okay.
Yeah, had thousands of fucking plants. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life, and the smell was insane. But it seems like they legalized something that's been they spent they spent what, trillions? Is that right? $1 trillion trying to stop it, and then
Probably.
they turned it over to slowly legalize it, and now they're making money on the opposite direction. But the thing is, dude, it's like a fucking sweatshop to go to work in one of these places. They pay they pay $17 an hour to work you like a dog, dude. You're
I mean,
inside.
that's like a lot of minimum wage jobs, to be honest.
Yeah, this is one of my coworkers called it a prison for plants because it's inside, it's climate controlled. There's no sun, there's no wind, there's no fresh air. Everything's taken care of, monitored very closely. They spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, close to $1 million, to set this thing up. And I heard that they pay last year. They paid the city that they're in $400,000 in taxes. They're making money like you can't fucking believe, and they're paying people slave wages to do it. And it is the worst job I ever had in my life. And I've had a bunch of shitty jobs, bro. But it seems like this dream of, you know, long-term marijuana smokers and long-term marijuana advocates. It's this dream that's coming alive for them. But what they don't realize is, like, it's the same thing as the work in the fields. People don't realize where their food comes from. They don't realize where their pot is coming from. They have all these great things coming to them, healthy food and great weed, and all these things are happening, have been monetized to feed the American population, and people are suffering, Lalo. Those people that work in that place are actually suffering. I can see it in their face. And you can't escape it once you reach that level. I did it because I wanted the experience to be
Yeah.
in there. But man, it's covered in chemicals. You don't see the sun. You don't go outside. You're breathing like these harsh chemical smells when you're in the hallways, and then you go into these grow rooms, and it's just this overwhelming smell of flowering marijuana, and it is intense, man. It is seriously the most intensely bad job I ever had in my life.
How long were you there?
4 fucking days, and it seemed at the end of 4 days, my mental health had been um, affected. My back was out. My knees hurt. My entire life, I felt like I got beat up and put in fucking prison, dude. By the day 4, I didn't want to go to work. I mean, first day I raced there, I was like, this is gonna be fucking great, you know. And
Yeah.
by day 4, I was like, I can't believe that people have to do this, but you cannot escape once you reach that level. Like I said, I did it because I wanted the experience, and I have a spouse that makes enough money to support us both in minimal terms. So whatever I do is just icing on top of the cake. And I thought $17 an hour, that's fine. I just want to go. I just want to go see it. And uh, no way. I'll never go back. And I can't believe that people are suffering inside these places. They're talking about how they're, but it's isn't it that same thing? It's like, little farmers who are working the farms get bought up by bigger farmers, get bought up by corporations. It won't be long before these marijuana places get sucked up by the pharmaceutical company, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's like tons of money in that. So, like, I wouldn't be surprised, you know?
Yeah, but if there's Lalo, if there's tons of money and shit, why aren't the American people making the tons of money?
Well, that's just how the system. I mean, that's like every like sector, you know.
Right.
Um, like you mentioned, like field work earlier,
Yeah.
and it's like very like they're very similar, you know, in that one it's like multi like billion-dollar industry like
Hmm.
yearly, and that there's you know like the owners of the land, they're making all the money, you know,
Right.
and it's a thing that's very like they're working in something that's very like one desirable and needed, um, and yet they see like very little like return, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really fucking sad. I mean, I got to know, I got to know the basics of most of the people who work there, and the master growers, they're making some money, and the owners, of course, and HR, and the whole system that supports that grow. But at the bottom of it are these people making $17 an hour, and when gasoline is $6 an hour or $6 a gallon, and food's outrageous and everything. And these people are talking about how a lot of them got disillusioned with corporate America, and there are fucking, I can't say who they are, but man, there's fucking people in there that were teachers and a lawyer and all kinds of shit, and you question me like, what happened? Like, I just got disillusioned, and I wanted to come down here to where I thought life would be easier and better and less pressure on me. But you give up the pressure of being in a cog in the corporation to be the pressure of being under the corporation, because you have no power. You have no power. You got people walking the hallways like, take a break, and your break room is, you know, probably 90 to 95 degrees. You're,
Damn.
yeah, man, it's fucking suffering, and I can't believe that people, are like, wow, this is really good marijuana. Do you know where it came from? No. Wow, this is really good corn. Do you know where it came from? Do you know where your grapes come from? Do you know where your everything fucking comes from? And and you look at these like meat processing plant. Just go down the fucking list of all the places where, like you said, all these menial labor jobs that people are absolutely caught in, man. They can't escape it. There's no way. They're too tired to go to school, too poor to go to school. Yeah, and it just seems like they just work until their body gives out, and there you go. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think one of the like issues with that also is, when you tell people this, I think I would say for most people, like regardless of like political ideology,
Yeah.
I think most people the first thing they think of is like, well, like just quit, like just
Yeah.
go work somewhere else, and that's like it's very like it circumvents like the actual issue. The issue isn't, oh hey, I worked here and it fucking sucked, like the conditions suck. It's The issue is somebody has to do this job and it's gonna fucking suck for them.
Yeah.
It's not an individual issue, it's a systemic issue. So yeah, like you could quit and like, like you said, you'll be fine. You could just go find another job or do something else.
Yeah.
But somebody's gonna replace you where you left,
Yeah.
and then
They
they're
have a
gonna
high
suffer.
turnover rate too.
Yeah. So, you're not gonna you're just it's pretty much like you're just kicking down the can to like the next person. And people like really like it's very hard for them to grasp that concept. I've come to learn, because even when you try to explain it to them, it's like, and I think part of that's like the like selfish mentality,
Yeah.
because after that they just like, well, I don't care, because if you're talking to them about what happened to you, like, oh yeah, it sucked, I had to do this, it was fucking 120 degrees, blah blah blah, and then they tell you like, oh, just quit, and you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna quit and do this, but someone else is gonna have to do that job. After it gets like past you, like they don't care.
Yeah, eventually you get down to eventually you bypass all the people like me, and you bypass all the people dropping out of the bottom, and eventually you get down to the people who can't escape the job. And, you know, I heard this thing, and it's controversial as hell. And because philosophically, it kind of makes sense, but it doesn't to say it. But when you are trapped in a job, dude, a job that you don't want, living in a place you don't want to live, dream of nothing but escaping your own fucking life, and make peanuts, and you can't afford anything, you can't go anywhere, you can't do anything. That's fucking slavery, man. That's the definition of fucking slavery. Just take away the $17 and bam, you got a fucking slave. He can't escape. He can't leave.
Yeah. And
And
I mean, if anything, those $17 are kind of like, it's kind of like the chain, holding them, because
yeah,
it's the one thing that they, like, I wouldn't even say benefit, but it's the one thing that they get. And it's like it's like when you feed like somebody like just enough to survive.
yeah, just enough
And it's like,
calories to keep them alive.
right. So, and I mean, that's what they, to be honest, that's what they did do to like slaves.
Yeah,
Because, they were neglected, they were beaten, they were whipped, but they were fed just enough so they wouldn't die,
right.
so they could keep doing the work.
Yeah, you can. It's, I don't know, dude. It really opened my eyes to the things that you and I have talked about. And over the couple years, or I guess we've been doing this, you've really said some eye-opening things to me. But until you experience that, until you can talk all day long about being shot until you get fucking shot, and then you have a whole different ball game in your head. Now I know what it really feels like. So I had this idea in my head that there's people out there suffering, man, and I get it. And you talked about it, and how capitalism and corporatism just rapes people of their identities, and I was like, yeah, that's terrible. And then it happened to me, Lalo, and it really opened my eyes to the fact that there's some bad shit going on in this country right now. And I don't know how long it's been going on, but I don't think, dude, has it ever been this fucking bad?
Uh, um, I actually think things are getting, I want to say, slightly better. I think something that is happening though is there's a lot more like awareness and like outcry, and I think that gives the perception that things are like worse, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like you hear people actually coming out and talking about like their workplace, and what it's like working at Amazon and Starbucks. Because I mean, there's been, for as long as like the United States has been a country, there's been like capital exploitation.
Right.
But
Starting with fucking slavery.
right, but for the longest time, like nobody said anything. Like, yeah, we had like unions. We actually had stronger unions, before. So in that sense, things have gotten worse. But I think there's a lot more. Um, like if you picture like a graph of like how good and how bad things have gone,
Yeah.
I would say, like let's say we started like level, and then we went down during like the 1800s and like the early 1900s with like the Industrial Revolution, because things were pretty bad back then.
Yeah. There were children working
Yeah.
in coal mines and
And
shit.
then
We
we
know
you
that.
went, you went like slightly up because of unionization and like uh labor laws, and then it was like a steady like decline to where we are right now. But I think right now we're like on an upturn. We're like at the very beginnings of an upturn, because I do see a lot of like I said, like outcry and like demands, and like um, social media and stuff like that does a huge part in like spreading awareness and kind of like holding not people but like corporations and holding companies like more accountable
Well, there's
because
this thing on TikTok that I was reading about. What's it called? Like some quiet quitting, or yeah, I think it's called quiet quitting. But it's like people say they're just doing the bare minimum at their job, and that seems, when I looked at that, I was like, good for them. But the thing is, dude, just doing your job is, if we've come to the point where it's called quitting to just do your fucking job, then we have a problem, because now, in order to keep a job, or before quiet quitting was, like you said, it came into the knowledge of the American people via social media, quiet quitting meant just doing your job. Well, what was it before that? That it was working overtime that you didn't get paid for, and they had all this list of things that they were having to do to keep their jobs. And now they've come back to, I'm just going to do my fucking job and go home. And that's looked on with derision by corporations and CEOs and COOs. And then it gets in the media and it gets spun like these fucking people are lazy, and they're not lazy, man. I came across this thing in my own life, that where my job had become my life, and my that kicked in OCD and mental health issues, and all these things came to pass because I was so worried and focused on, I got to have this career, I got to have this job, I got to do my best, I got to get more money. And luckily, and it's because I have a spouse who has a career, and a very stable career, makes money. I got to realize that what I was doing was killing me, slowly taking away the person that I was. And being instead of being the artist and the musician and the poet and the writer and the painter, and doing the things that I enjoy, like this podcast and thinking and philosophy, it was a matter of, I was getting up, worrying about my job, rushing to my job, doing my job, and going home and worrying about my fucking job. Now, how many people are doing that? And on top of that, they don't make enough money. So you just keep people down. That's how, and I don't know, I'm not saying it's some fucking conspiracy theory. I'm not putting tinfoil on my head, but the way things have happened, the way things have shaken down, and the way things click together, this puzzle that we're putting together, it's people are waking up to the fact that corporations are fucking evil. And you have that during the pandemic, the largest wealth transfer in the history of humankind. Something's up here, dude. Something's up real bad. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
And I mean, I think what also comes along with those type of things, with like more outcry and more awareness, is you get like you get reactions from these corporations when it comes to like almost like lashing out, you know.
Yeah.
So that's, I think that also adds to like the perception that things are getting worse, because you see like, you know, like what was it, I forgot what the exact number was, but like um Starbucks has been like closing certain stores, and it just happens to be that all those stores that they're closing are like unionized,
Oh, is
you
that
know?
right?
And they claim like, oh no, it's like performance based, you know, like these stores aren't doing so well, so we're gonna close them down.
Mm.
But I think it was like 70 or 80% of those stores that they've closed down in like the past year and a half have all been stores or locations where they unionized.
See, that shit is insidious, man, and no one wants to. We're so overwhelmed with fucking news. Shit like that just goes right by us, and we don't even pay attention to it. And it's people like you who catch that, and you try to tell somebody, but in order to explain that, you have to almost explain, you know, You have to explain corporate structure and the way things are and the news and all the things that came together to cause that little reaction of like, oh, you want to fucking unionize? Okay, we'll just close your goddamn store. See how you like that. And
Yeah.
yeah, and like I said, it's fucking insidious what they're doing to us. That they're sucking the money out of us, they're taking the power away from us, they're taking land away from us. Everything you can imagine to put money in the hands of corporations. And that's the it seems like that's the goal of government is to take money out of our pocket and put it in corporate hands.
And you know what the crazy part is? It amazes me like how there's, I mean, it's pretty much half the country that that like agrees with that, you know? Like they see that and like they applaud it almost, you know?
Yeah,
Like every time I see like a like cuz I know Starbucks has been in the news like a lot when it comes to like unionization.
yeah.
Um
Starbucks
and
and
like
Amazon both.
yeah, so every time like I see a story, I'll like go to the comments and it's like people are like hating on unions. And I mean, don't get me wrong, unions aren't like perfect. Like even our union uh, at work, like I left it. Like uh, I don't know what the term would be, like resigned my membership or whatever.
Yeah.
But that was just because I felt like they weren't doing what they could have done. Like
Really?
I felt like they like when it comes to like our last contract negotiation, I felt like more. I felt like they just backed down like at the last second to avoid a strike, which is weird because it was like right before that they were like, "Oh, we're ready to strike. Like, you know, get ready. Like it's coming."
Yeah.
Because they're not budging. And then like at the 12th, the 11th hour, it was like, "Oh, never mind. Like it's a good deal. We should all vote yes." And
So
everybody was like, "What the fuck?"
they didn't strike on this they threatened to strike on the same deal that they later said
That
is
they let
okay
her. Yes,
and nothing changed in the deal.
right.
Yeah,
And I thought that was like a coward move. So I was like, okay,
yeah, it's
I'm
like
leaving.
that pact act. There it is. When 28 senators, Republican senators were like, yeah, that's great. Let's feed them. And then all of a sudden 28 said no, and nothing had fucking changed. And then they came up with all these excuses. Oh, it's just the Democrats trying to do this. And thank God for Jon Stewart to point out that nothing had fucking changed, Ted Cruz. You're a fucking liar. And that's what you just experienced in the union. Nothing has fucking changed. Why are you changing your mind?
Yeah, so I felt like there was some sort of like insider like meetings and like
Yeah.
you know. So I was like, okay,
Smoke
like
filled rooms in the back room.
and, you know that's why I'm not like a blind supporter, you know, of anything to be honest. Um, and I'm willing to like criticize even things I support, like unions, you know.
Sure.
As any, you should be willing to criticize anything you support, you know. So so yeah, so don't get me wrong, like I do like support unions like in general overall, but I also think like you should like the union should work for you. That's the point of it, you know.
Yeah.
And I actually think I think a better solution would be like smaller unions. Excuse me, in a sense that like smaller like coalitions, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I think when they get like super big, it's like it's hard to meet meet the worker demands just because there's you
Yeah.
know a
The
lot of
SEIU, they're are they nationwide?
I know they're statewide. I don't know if they're nationwide.
Okay. So see, that's my solution to big government is more power needs to be put back into municipalities and counties and state level because when you're up there trying to pass a bill for 350 million people, That ain't gonna fucking work. I mean, even if you hit half of us, you're still talking about 175 million people that disagreed.
Yeah.
So it's easier for municipalities to say, okay, we're gonna close in. We're gonna be our judicial system is going to be us and our demographic and our people, and then you can have a coalition as a country, but you need to put the power back in the hands of the fucking people instead of there's a million people, 997,000 people in Kern County, and Kevin McCarthy speaks for us all. I don't fucking think so. Even if the majority of people, a slight majority, come up, there's still half of a large population that does not agree, and you just can't have that, bro.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's like the true like purpose of like state government,
Yeah,
is that smaller like individual, um not control, but like I guess power,
yeah,
and influence. Because I mean, there are things that should be like federally acknowledged, and laws that should be nationwide. But the United States is very vast, and with that, it's very like different.
hmm,
Like not just like population, but like geographically, um, like it's very diverse.
yeah. I think the geographical layout of any place dictates the population. Like
Right. So
the
like
hills in
the
West
need,
Virginia and
yeah,
the
like
flatlands, and
right. So like needs are going to be very different in
yeah,
like very different parts of the country. And I think that's where state government should come in and, you know, advocate for those individual needs of each state. Um, so, I mean, there's a need for both, like
oh,
big government and smaller
I
government.
agree. Big government should deal with things that big government should deal with, like infrastructure, because infrastructure is pretty much the same coast to coast. Electricity, I know it goes, like you said, by geographics. You're going to have to get electricity into West Virginia differently than you're going to have to get it into Kansas. But still, that should be something that the power grid. That's federal. The I, I I can't really think of any much more, but turn the rest over to us. So your infrastructure is important: water, electricity,
I
gas,
think
oil.
education should be federal too. I don't think like different states. Well, I don't think kids should be getting different education based on the state that they live in when it comes to
Yeah,
like
you're right.
the material and the quality of it. I know that's hard to do when it comes, especially when it comes to the quality,
Well, that's called
uh,
Common Core. That's
especially
what.
when you like in highly dense like populations. It's very hard to like have high quality education just because you have like 50 kids per room.
Yeah,
Um, but that's why you need to like that's why they need to do a better job of like allocating funds to different schools. And the current like school funding system is like a joke, like the whole property tax thing.
yeah,
Like I don't know who thought of that and thought that was like a good idea, but that's like the biggest joke I've ever seen in my life.
yeah. It's
It's
like,
like your neighborhood's gonna fund your schools.
in your
Well, it's
neighborhood
like
shitty. So guess what?
your schools are shitty. Yeah, so it's like that makes literally zero sense to me.
Schools. It's a meritocracy, man.
But yeah, like healthcare, education, infrastructure. I think those are like the pillars of. Those should be the pillars of like the national government, because, like
But
you said,
yeah,
those are all things that we like need, and those are things that are very important to everybody. Like
yeah,
healthcare,
I
very
agree.
important. Education, I think, is probably the most important to me. And then obviously infrastructure.
Well,
So
I don't. Wouldn't healthcare be more important? Wouldn't they all three be important
I mean, they're all important, but
equally?
to me, education, because of I see education as like the way we education is like a long play for me.
Yeah,
Like
it's like a
education
cornerstone.
guides.
It is. You can't have healthcare without education, without educating the people, because you can't have doctors, and you can't have infrastructure because you need engineers, and that's an education. And yeah, you're right. I
Yeah,
agree.
so that's why like when it comes to like immediate like importance, like yeah, you could probably put healthcare at number one, because people are dying out here. But I'm talking about like when it comes to like the foundation of like the future of this country, I think education like hands down number one.
If you want to talk about, people, you said people are dying. It's by their own hand, man. It
Well, I wouldn't
really
say
is.
always.
Not always, but a large portion of American population is dying and sick of their own volition. They know better. You can't eat a box of fucking donuts and that's your fuel for the day. And
Well,
you
a lot of
can't,
people know better, but they can't really do better because of
right, because they make $17 an hour.
yeah, and like there's it's almost like it's like imagine if you knew what you should eat, like oh you know what's healthy, you know what's not, and then you get put like in the middle of like your house is surrounded by like fast food restaurants,
Yeah,
and like the nearest grocery store is like 30 minutes away or an hour away, and it's like yeah you know better, and like you'll go to the grocery store whenever you can, but it's like it's kind of to a sense it's out of your control at that point, because your necessities kind of like your necessity to eat and stuff like that
right.
overpowers like your desire to eat healthy because of your like the limited resources that you have.
Well,
And that's a lot of people, especially like I said in like very urban areas and like densely populated areas, like go to
mhm,
like LA anywhere, like
yeah,
it's hard to find a grocery store, but
it
it's
really
super
is.
easy to find McDonald's.
Yeah, I get that. I do get that. But here's a little um, example. You're going to do exactly what you're going to do and what you want to do. And here's why I say that. When I lived in West Virginia, marijuana was illegal, and it wasn't just illegal, Lalo. It was like literally, if they found a seed in your pocket, you were going to jail. So it was very draconian. It was very harsh, but I knew a lot of people that smoked pot. I smoked pot. I drove every weekend. I drove for an hour and 15 minutes one way up in the fucking hills of West Virginia just to buy shitty weed to bring it back home so I could get high. Now, I know that doesn't sound like food, but the thing is, I was making a choice to go do something that I wanted to do. So if I want to be healthy, the bus goes to the fucking grocery store, man. And I know it's a pain in the ass, but which is worse? Obesity, diabetes, being sick, being tired, uh, the gastrointestinal issues that Americans have at phenomenal rates. Which is better? Or just going to the grocery store to go out of my way? I don't want to be sick. So I'm going to choose the hard way. But I know a lot of people don't do that.
Yeah, but at the same time I don't really blame them like specifically, because I know for a lot of people like yeah it's the hard thing to do, but um it's also like I don't want to say it's too hard, but it's too like your example was like very individualized,
Yeah,
like, oh I want to do this, I'm gonna do that. But for a lot of people I think it's oh I want you know like I want my family to eat healthy, but I have 3 kids and 2 jobs,
right.
and they're like crying that they're hungry,
And we're going
and
to go to
I don't
McDonald's.
and I don't have time to go buy groceries, go cook the food, go serve them all that stuff. So you go to McDonald's. So it's like it's almost like a coercive like choice, you know? Like yeah, do you have the choice? Of course. Like you're always going to have that choice. But like when everything around you is like forcing you to make a certain choice, it's kind of hard to make the other choice.
Yeah, I can see. I mean, I see both sides.
Like when you're an individual and it's like, oh, I'm just lazy. I don't want to go. I don't want to cook, you know. Or, you know, even a lot of people like they'll have food in their fridge and it's like, oh, I don't want to cook it. I'll just order DoorDash or whatever.
Right.
Like, yeah, you could like, oh, well, you kind of did it to yourself, you know. But um, I just look at the other people that are like kind of like their life is on go 24/7, you know. And I think there's a lot of people like that, you know, with families, with kids, you know,
Yeah.
that it's like you like don't like there's not enough, you know, hours in the day, even if you wanted to do all those things. And I'm sure a lot of them do.
Well,
It's hard.
yeah, I can see that. But here's the thing, dude. And I'm not being harsh on people. I'm simply saying there are people that walk among us. Lots of people that walk among us that have two jobs and go to school and two kids and manage to eat right and exercise and drink enough water and do all the things that they can do to maximize their life so they can get a better life. You got to stay healthy in order to stay up late. You got to eat the right food to fuel yourself, to stay up late, to study, to get up early, to go to your first job. you know and yeah, it's back to back to back to back, but they're working towards a better life. What I see a lot of is, I see people who work shitty jobs, complain about it, don't take care of themselves. That's what I see the most of. And they give lip service. Someday I'm going to, Monday I'm going to start, first of the year I'm going to do. And they never follow through on any of these things because they're fucking hard. This country was built, and I'm not being a Republican here. I'm not being anything. I'm just pointing out the fucking truth. This company was built on that type of person. You know,
Yeah.
that's how we came to be, as people who were trying their best to maximize their lives. Nowadays, we're just trying our best not to work, not to do any of the work. And I don't mean for Amazon. I mean for ourselves. We don't even do that work for ourselves anymore. We just take the easiest route. I'm going to pass by a grocery store on my way home from work, but I don't want to fucking cook. I'm just going to stop and get some cheeseburgers and take them to my kids. That's not the way. That's not the way to get to success. That's a surefire way to stay right the fuck where you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, like I'm able to see like both sides of the argument, you know?
Yeah.
I just, I always tend to side like on any issue with like the people that are like, I don't know, like most vulnerable, I guess you could say,
Right.
or that are like having like the worst of the worst. I'm in this like at CSUB. I'm in this. It's like a fellowship for like you do like field work and you know they give you like money for school and stuff.
Yeah.
And
A handout
there,
is what you're saying.
I mean not really because I'm doing the work. And they put you there's like three categories that you could choose. Like food insecurity is one of them, climate change, and like K through 12 education. Um, and I'm in the K through 12 education, and they have like partners that you're going to do the field work with. So they have like you know superintendent schools, like Boys and Girls Club, like all these different partners that are in each category, you know, that deal with it. And we're gonna do like field work like throughout the year and like get hours, and it's pretty much like an internship, like a
That's
paid
cool.
internship.
Yeah, that's cool.
But yesterday we had like this orientation and we had this speaker. He was like I think he's like the president of like or vice president of like uh student something at CSUB. I forgot like his exact title. And he has like this presentation on leadership, and I don't know if it's just like the cynical person in me, but I felt not a lot of it, but there was some like parts of the presentation that just it sat like very wrong with me the way that it was presented. And it's not like his presentation was based a lot on was heavily based on a book. um I forgot what the book was called. It was like seven, like some seven something for like leaders or something like that. And
Yeah.
it talked about like seven like pillars of like great leadership, you know. And like the very first pillar, like the very first point, um he expressed it as like don't blame others like for your like misfortune,
Yeah.
or like don't blame others for like where you are in life, you know. And he's all like, you know, you should what you should do is get that finger and turn it into a hook and like point her back at yourself.
Oh, man. Yeah,
And it's like,
that's big in self-help books.
yeah, and it's like I like, you know, 7 8 years ago you told me that, I'll be like, hell yeah, like that makes sense, you know.
Yeah.
Or like if you even for like a second just stop and like think about it, like what like what if there is others to blame for your misfortune, you know. Like what do you do then? You know, I'm not saying like people should just like cry their entire lives and, you know, complain, but I'm saying if you're unable, if we are unable like as a group and a society to like recognize like the faults that others have done like onto us, like how are you ever going to fix them like systemically, you know.
Right. I
Like,
get it.
and it's like, yeah, like in this mindset, like, you know, oh, I don't care that they did this to me, I'm still going to push forward and I'm going to succeed. Like that's great, but like I mentioned like way earlier, like what about the next person, you know? What about the people behind you? Like what about them? If you don't fix like the thing that's hurting you, like it's going to keep doing it long after you're gone. And I
Yeah.
think that's a very like missed point that a lot of people like don't grasp,
Hmm.
you know. Because like that analogy of, you know, like, oh, you know, don't blame, just you know, point that finger back at yourself. It's like, well, that's insinuating that it's your fault that you're where you are, and that's not true. Like I would
It's
say
not
most of
always
the
true.
time,
Right.
you know. And I don't care where you are, like it's not your choice, you know. You could be fucking, you know, Jeff Bezos' son. It's not your fault that you're his son. It's not your choosing that, you know, you were born a billionaire, you know, and it's not your choice that you were born, you know, in poverty. So for you, for people to say, you know, like that it's, you know, that you're in complete control of your life, I think that statement or that idea is very flawed. When people say, "Oh, you're in control of your life, you're in control of your outcomes," like that's not true at all, like at all. And people don't recognize that. They just want to say stuff like that to make you like, and I get it, you know, to like empower you and like inspire you to like do great things, and that's great and all, but like don't lie to these people, you know. Like you can, it's okay to say, hey, you know, a lot of people get dealt terrible hands, a lot of people get dealt great hands, you know. And what you do with that, it's up to you. But at the same time, like there's external forces that are going to push back,
Yeah.
and depending on
Always.
who you are, depending on where you're from, depending on what you look like, those forces are going to be different for each and every one of you. And
Yeah.
those are the things that we should work towards, into like eliminating those. So it's truly, once you eliminate those things, it's truly up to you. And that's what people don't want to say, and that's what people don't say.
Well, you know, when okay, I had when I was 34, I owned a business and things were well, and I sold the business and we moved to California. Things were looking up. I was going to work for Halliburton, and everything was on my shoulders and my wife's shoulders at the time. We were looking for jobs. We were partially educated. We were in school. We were doing all the things we needed to do. And then some dickhead runs into me at 150 miles an hour and kills my kid and fucks me up. And, who am I supposed to blame at that point? Myself? That's exactly what your point you're trying to make. There are external forces in this world that are not your fucking fault. You had nothing to do with it. And systemically, I could say, okay, I'm going to go back and blame Audi for making the car. No. So that part's fine. And then I move up to, the rental agencies are trying to make money, and the corporate policies allow that rental guy to give this car to 18-year-old kid who's obviously lying to get the car just so he can go race that weekend. There's the problem. It wasn't me. So what they're doing when they say, take that finger and hook it and point it back at you, is they're dragging a red herring across your path. I see problems out there that I could probably fix if I could get enough people together to vote or hold a rally or do something to point out that's an unfair system. But what they do is like, oh no, it's your fault, and you take off. And you said it's to empower you. I don't think so, brother. I think it's to fucking distract you from the real issues. It's your problem. Go fix it. So you're distracted now. What am I doing that's
What am I doing
causing
wrong?
what am I doing wrong that caused this? Well, you're not doing anything wrong, man. You're fooled now. And the guy, like you said, the guy has great that's really nice that he's doing that, because some people, yeah, like the people that I talked about earlier, some people it is their fucking fault and it is their problem, and they've done it for so long that it's become an addiction, and now it's not their problem anymore. It's an addiction, and now they need help. But others, no, that it's not. It wasn't my fault that guy ran into me. That wasn't my
Yeah.
problem.
And I mean, don't get me wrong, like the rest of the presentation was like great and like,
Yeah, but it started
motivating.
off with a bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah. So it kind of, I think when things happen like that, you kind of like, you're like skeptical like the rest of the way,
Yeah,
But no, like it was great. Like he talked about like, how to like address issues and like how people react differently to like certain situations. And I mean, that's like just like normal, like psychology stuff.
right.
Um,
Some people you step on them and they get really pissed off. Some people you step on them and they lay there.
yeah. So, but yeah, I just thought that was very like interesting, like the way it started off, and I think that's a mentality that a lot of people have in this country. Um, and it's funny because I feel like when it comes to like what's the term that they call the like the modern, what's the term when like countries are like when you're referring to countries that are like modern, I guess.
Uh,
Um,
in, Not industrialized or
no, but anyways, like when it comes to like uh, I guess first world countries, you could call them.
okay.
Like I feel like that mindset is um, not exclusive to the United States, but um, it's one of the few countries that almost that thinks that way. I think a lot of like uh, countries, especially like in Europe, um, like even like Asia, like there's a big emphasis on like uh, community. You know, it's not individual problems aren't individualized in a lot of places. They're like societal and systemic, so they address them in that manner. It's not, hey, we have you know uh uh like you can name any issue. It's like, hey, we don't have a drug problem, like we have a drug problem, so let's make sure that you don't do drugs, you like the individual,
Yeah.
instead of, hey, we have a drug problem, let's address this problem as a whole and to
Yeah.
try to remedy it.
That's kind of like a straw man argument. We have a drug problem, so let's talk to all the people who aren't doing drugs. That's not the fucking issue.
Yeah, so it's like it's almost like if every issue is like you have to deal with it instead of hey, let's solve it so nobody has to deal with it. It's this it this issue is here. Uh so we're going to have to deal with it one way or the other.
Right.
But like on the individual basis, you know?
Well, that's that's funny. I never thought about that, dude. We have a lot of heroin addicts. So what we're gonna do is teach people not to use heroin. Well, I don't use heroin. I never. I can see the problem, so I'm not doing it. You need to talk to the people who are in danger of or actually using heroin.
I was reading this I think it's in I think it was like Sweden. There's like this whole community. It's like a whole town where people they're like foster families and they almost like adopt or like take in like mentally ill people. And what they do is they pretty much become part of their family, you know.
Yeah.
And they also like become part of like the town in a way of like they work, they go to school. They're like very integrated in the society of that town. And like people go like it's like an application process. Like if you want like a relative or a friend to go there, like you have to apply and they let people in. But it's like they see mental illness as like uh they don't see it as like debilitating as I think most people see it, you know.
Right.
And when they're so integrated in the society, like um it's almost like they become invisible. And it's very hard. Like if you were to take a stroll down that town, you'd have a very hard time like identifying who has like schizophrenia. Um
Because they're medicated and taken care of, and
well, they are medicated, like they do take meds, and but their data has shown that within like 6 months to a year, like the dosage of medications that the people have to take are like severely reduced because they just don't need that much anymore. So I think like whatever they're doing when it comes to like integration and like support, obviously it's doing like some great things for like people when it comes to like their mental illness, you know.
yeah, that holistic uh, treatment of your holistic health. It's not
Right.
just, yeah, it's like I got a an infection. Well, that's a whole body thing. I have a mental illness. Well, that's a whole life thing, you know?
Right.
So you got to treat your whole life, but we don't have that mindset here. We
Yeah.
have,
Yeah. That's where I was going. Like, that mindset of how to treat like mental illness, that's like, that would be unheard of here, you know?
right.
Um,
Well, there are
so,
pockets, though. I will give Bark here in the Bakersfield ARC here in town. I'll give them credit. They take in the mentally challenged, and I can think of at least 5 people that I know who are mentally ill, and I'm not sure what the word is anymore. What just is it? It used to be the R word, and now what is it? Mentally challenged, or
I just say like mentally ill people,
yeah, well, I know some of that
people with
bags
mental.
groceries. I know somebody who works in Parks and Recreation. You know, works for the county. I know a guy that works for Dewars, and these people are highly revered in the company and they have great lives and they're well taken care of, and they actually pay their own way. They have apartments, cars, they have all kinds of things. But when they entered the program, I saw all of them enter the program distracted, unable to focus on anything, and now they're these pillars of companies. So yeah, it does fucking work when you have support. But it's like I said, it's these small pockets of nonprofits that are leading the way that no one's paying attention to. Bark has been almost defunded by the federal government and the state of California because they weren't. Because I don't know. they just took away their fucking money, and now they're almost broke. They're in a they moved out from Union, that big place on Union, to a small office downtown. So everything's downsized, but they're still managing to keep these people working, which is wonderful, you know.
Yeah.
But we
Yeah.
need to think more like that.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, I think our approach to a lot of these issues, and I mean, I've said it before. Like, I think a lot of the issues we have, if not all of them, most if not all, are very systemic, and you can't solve systemic issues um, like based on the individual because it doesn't solve the issue. It solves the issue for that specific person, but it doesn't get rid of like the root cause or the root causes of that issue.
Right.
And it's like it's just like a cycle. So
Well, they tend to blame the individuals for things that, you know what I mean, that that's out of their control. Like when this water crisis that we're having now, and they're like, you need to take shorter showers and flush your toilet less and stop watering your lawn and buy all this stuff from these corporations that'll help you save water. But I think it's like the average usage for is minuscule. It's less than 10% of what we're using, and some huge portion of ag, big agriculture, is taking all of our water. There's and they're blaming the celebrity for having a fucking fountain, and it's not them at all. I mean, it is. We could get our water usage down to 7%. So what? The corporations will take that percentage away from us, and we'll still have the same fucking problem. So these systemic issues that we're talking about, you're right. It's not up to the individual, it's up to the collective to turn on the corporations and say, "Listen, motherfucker, that's enough. You can't keep taking from us." But I don't know how to do that in a non-violent way anymore, because listen, man, I went back to listening to the news, and it is so convoluted and so you can't it's so distracting, Lalo, you can't pay attention to it. It's hard to put the pieces together anymore. And they're distracting us so much with these real issues: water, climate change, healthcare. They're distracting us with that because those are things we can't fucking fix, man. But what's happening is there's, well, let's see. I had numbers right here. There's 11 Republican nominees for state elections chief that have disputed the legitimacy of the 2020 election. And then half of the GOP governor nominees dispute the legitimacy of the election. 11 nominees for state elections chief, 11 secretary of state. This thing is creeping in on us. And how do we fix it? We could vote these people out, but man, this is a huge issue that's coming, and it's going to be on us in a year, Lalo, where we're going to have everybody who's in charge of half the fucking states are election deniers. Then what? Then we can't fix it at all, because they'll just say our person didn't win, so it's an illegitimate election.
I wonder if like all these things are like if it's like a cycle or if it's like here to stay.
Yeah.
Not so much a cycle, but like I don't know, like a phase, if you want to call it that.
Well, I know what you mean. Yeah, like the waves, like the big one we see when the Democrats are in charge, the Republicans rise up, and then when the Republicans are in charge, the Democrats rise up, and it waves back and forth.
Well, not
This
like
is
that. I
this
mean,
is
like
different, man.
like that mindset of like, or these like, stolen election. Like, is every like law like losing Republican gonna claim a unfair stolen election? Like, how long is that gonna last? Like, is that a phase or is that just like because Trump's like the the popular kid in school?
Right, right. I don't. It's pretty dangerous, man. I mean, for
Yeah, it's
undermining a
very.
democracy, that's pretty fucking dangerous.
You know what? It's like part of it is like funny to me because I like a lot of these elections that are coming up that are happening not coming that are happening right now are like primaries, you know,
Yeah.
and like these a lot of Republicans that lose are claiming like election fraud and all this stuff,
Yeah.
but they're running against other Republicans. Like that's who they're losing to because they're primaries, you know, like they're losing the nomination. There's this one lady. She's some like weird, like crazy lady. I forgot what state she's from, but she was like crying on like TV that it was stolen from her, and like she was like, "When are Republicans gonna like stand up and fight for what's right?" Like and all this stuff, and like it's a primary, like it's a
Yeah.
Republican run election by Republicans for Republicans, and it's like, how does your like they still cry like election fraud? It's that part of it is funny to me.
Well, I see the humor in it. I really do. I mean, because it's ridiculous when everything says no, there was nothing, and you stand firm. You're like a 3-year old who wants his way, and you're. But in this situation, it's not fucking funny because you're undermining American trust in the electoral process. That's no one has my entire life. No one. The only thing I ever saw really was Al Gore. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, and that he had a legitimate concern with the Chads and all this shit, and it got out of hand and went to Supreme Court, and in the end, the Supreme Court said nope, and Al Gore said okay. He wasn't like, nah, it's still wrong. It's still wrong. I didn't lose. So when you have that mentality, and then the media like amplifies that, but they're amplifying the woman crying about the election process, but what they're not telling you is the fucking truth that it's a Republican primary run by Republicans for Republicans. That's what they're not telling you.
Yeah.
So her reaction to it is fucking ridiculous. But the thing is, they're not showing us why it's ridiculous. They're just showing us that American process is weak and frail and failing, and that's taken away our confidence. And not you and I, because we read the story instead of just looking at the headline and going, "Oh shit, that woman got their election taken away from us. Let's get on Facebook and talk about it."
Hmm.
So it's a serious, serious fucking issue when you have half of the governor's nominees, gubernatorial nominees, are election deniers. What the fuck just happened, man? That's not a phase. That's that's turning the tide on democracy. And going after Trump is like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like I said, I went back to listening to the news. Like I work out every day for an hour. And while I'm doing it, I listen to like MSNBC and CNN and Fox. I listen to everybody. And it's the weirdest thing that I've ever seen in my life. It's like we have no trust in our system anymore. Everybody's fucking scared. We're being frightened with climate change and Republicans and Trump, and we're being overstimulated with the news, and we can only pick out the things that talk to us and our level of education and our level of economics and the things that we see. So when an election denier stands up and fucking bawls her eyes out that this is unfair, and I'm not saying anything bad but about people, but when you have a lower echelon of education, they're not going to look into it. They're just going to go, those fucking Democrats are stealing the country from us. And that's a fucking problem, dude. Big
But see,
problem.
I don't think most of these like candidates like actually believe that. I think they just say that because
Hmm.
that's like the thing to say now.
Right.
Like all those, people running for governor that, they say that, the election was like stolen or illegitimate. Like I don't think most of them like believe that at all. But they know that that's what they have to say to, get endorsed by Trump,
Right.
or, to appeal to his base. And that's what they're trying to do. Like they just need the votes. Because if you don't say that, they're not going to vote for you. So it's like, it's one of those things that just like on your list of like talking points, like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, they're going to take your guns away, just like they took the election away or some shit like that.
Well, if
And
my
they just
list,
have to say that.
yeah, I
Or else
get
they
it.
they don't even stand a chance.
It is
So I don't think they
fucking
believe it.
harmful though.
It is. And but that's what I was wondering. Like, is that like the phase that I was talking about, like having that talking point? Like I think it is like a temporary thing. Like I don't know how long, how temporary it's gonna be, but I do think eventually like that talking point will die off. But I do think it's probably gonna take like years, just because as long as like Trump's like, I guess, like politically active, you can say, there he's always going to be spouting that, that they
Yeah.
stole the election from him. So in turn, like they all Republicans have to like fall in line because that he's the most popular like Republican.
He's the most
And as
powerful Republican. Yep.
yeah, and as long as he's that, the most powerful and most popular, like they all kind of have to follow his lead, regardless of like how like off the wall it is, because they know his base is like if they don't have his base, like they don't have anything.
Right. And when you stand up to it, you become Liz Cheney.
Right. So that's what happens when you don't fall in line. So um, they kind of like see that, and they're just afraid, and they're like cowards and spineless.
Yeah. I, I see it like if you say it's just a talking point, and the the destruction of that talking point is phenomenal. It's like saying, you know, I don't say I don't like you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and tell your girlfriend that you're cheating on her. And it's not true. I don't fucking believe it. But I'm going to rip your life apart. I'm going to cause you so much hassle and so much just because I don't like you. And that's the Trump thing. I don't like I'm going to call you names, I'm going to tell lies, I'm going to do all kinds of things, and then you rile up a bunch of people that are like agreeing with that situation, and then you undermine the election process, you take away the confidence of the American people just so you can stay in power. That is untenable, dude. It really is.
Yeah, it's like it is very harmful. Like I don't I didn't mean it was like just a talking point. Like that's all it is. But I'm saying like it is a talking point that they have to use.
Yeah, they
But that
have
doesn't
to.
mean it's not very like harmful, because I know that it is.
I just wonder where that it's how it's going to play out. I mean, we're going to find out. The House, the Senate is probably going to stay Democratic controlled. The House, now they're saying it could happen because what you're talking about is so true. There's a pushback now. It's gotten to the point where there's a pushback. It's like that's not true, and so some media outlets are reporting that Trump's shit is just isn't true. But the problem is all the people that he's got fooled won't read the rest of the story. And all the people that know the rest of the story that want to stay in power, well, they're just fucking spineless cowards who are like, I can't stand up to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But he's not the problem, I don't think. I just, like you said, the problem is systemic and we're so divided and the government is so big. It's just crazy dystopian nonsense that we're having to go through right now. I hope we make it. I mean, it's possible, but the things that are happening now are going to change the landscape forever.
Yeah. So it's just, I guess it's just like a matter of waiting and seeing what like the long term effects are.
Yeah, I gotta write that down. Change the landscape forever. See, that's awesome. I take notes during these so I can write all the copy for him. Well, dude, I'm gonna go exercise and take the rest of the day off. What about
Sounds
you?
like a pretty good plan. I have to be at school for like 3 hours because it's like a 3 day orientation for that fellowship thing.
Yeah.
So it was like Friday, Saturday, and then a few hours today. So I have to be there by noon. And then I actually have my fantasy football draft today, like at 5. So pretty busy day. Full of
Pretty
important
busy
things.
day. I'm gonna probably exercise and then watch rom-coms and cry.
Nice.
That's true. I hate to say it. I told my friend last night, he goes, God, that is so gay. And I'm like, nuh-uh. He's gay. He's allowed to call me gay. If he wasn't gay and he called me gay, that would be bullying.
I guess.
You guess?
I don't want to say bullying. I would just say, I don't think people call that bullying.
What would
It's
it be?
It's just ignorance.
It's just ignorance. All right. Oh my God, I forgot you were woke. I forgot about that.
Yep. I saw this. I forgot what the quote was exactly, but it was something about like the American dream, and it's like I see right through the American dream because I'm woke or
Yeah.
something like that. But it was like playing, like it was like a play off words of like dreaming and like being
Yeah.
awake. So
Oh,
anyway,
okay. The American dream is yeah, okay. I hate that term, woke.
well, I hate the term American dream, so it makes sense. I don't hate it, but I just
I know. I don't
very,
hate
like,
I
it's a
don't hate the
fall
term woke. I just hate the
stigma.
massive amount of bullying from that side towards the people who are bullies. It's like that American way of life. It's like those people have guns, so what are we gonna do? Let's get guns. Those people are really, really mean to other people. So what do? Let's be really mean to them to show them that they're being mean. It's like that. Let's kill people who kill people to show people that killing people is wrong. It's like
Well, I mean,
that's
sometimes it's a necessary evil. I would just depending on the situation.
unless you're in Texas, then it's just a way of life.
Yep.
Yep. All right, man. Well, thanks, bro. Another. God damn! How do we get to these segues and the name? I have to come up with some odd names for some of these podcasts sometimes because we talk about so much stuff. I think I'll just go with slavery is real this time. All right, man. Have a good week.
You too, man.
And remember, this has been the Thoroughly Wrong Project. Sometimes we say shit that we could possibly be wrong. Get in touch with us. We're still here. We're waiting on you. Have a good week, dude.
You too, man.
Later.
Later.
You have now experienced the Thoroughly Wrong Project with your podcast hosts, Lalo and Bob. We can now be found on Pandora Radio, Apple Podcasts, Podium Podcast, or by searching The Thoroughly Wrong Project to locate our YouTube channel. You can contact us directly by email at thoroughly-wrong@gmail.com or just leave a comment on any of our platforms. Until next time, thanks for spending your valuable time with us, and remember, always speak up and never be afraid to be thoroughly wrong.